April 22, 2021. Zac Efron walked onto Bill Nye's Earth Day special, but instead of celebrating the planet, the world couldn't stop staring at his face. His jaw looked swollen, unnaturally squared off. His cheeks appeared puffier than ever before. The internet erupted within minutes. Memes compared him to handsome Squidward. Others joked he looked like a cartoon villain or a botched Hollywood experiment. For millions who had grown up with him as the flawless teen idol of High School Musical, this wasn't just surprising, it was shocking. Zac Efron, the poster boy of an entire generation, suddenly looked almost unrecognizable. The rumors were immediate. Plastic surgery gone wrong? Steroids? Some secret Hollywood trick to bulk him up for a role? Whatever the truth was, one thing became clear. Zac's body had once again become the center of the conversation. Because if there's one thing Hollywood has always demanded from Zac Efron, it's his appearance. From his Disney days to his shredded Baywatch physique, Zac's looks have been both his greatest weapon and his biggest curse. So how did Hollywood turn Zac Efron into a product to be sold? And what was the true cost of that transformation? Before the memes, before the body transformations, Zac Efron was just a kid from San Luis Obispo, California. He grew up in a middle-class family, singing in school musicals and taking small theater roles. Acting wasn't even his main goal at first. He was an honor student planning for college. But Hollywood had other plans. In 2006, Zac landed what seemed like a modest gig, the lead role in a Disney Channel original movie called High School Musical. No one could have predicted what happened next. The film premiered to nearly 8 million viewers. Within weeks, its soundtrack, led by Zac and co-star Vanessa Hudgens, became one of the best-selling albums in America. Breaking Free even cracked the Billboard Hot 100, catapulting Zac from an unknown teenager to a global phenomenon almost overnight. By the time High School Musical 2 and 3 hit screens, Zac wasn't just Disney's star, he was the face of a generation. His posters covered bedroom walls, his face dominated magazine covers, and wherever he went, crowds of screaming fans followed. To millions of teenagers, Zac wasn't just an actor. He was the teen idol of the 2000s. But as quickly as the fame came, so did the box he was trapped in. Every role he was offered seemed to be another variation of Troy Bolton, the charming, clean-cut heartthrob. Even when he starred in Hairspray or 17 Again, Hollywood kept recycling the same image, Zac as the perfect boy. And while it made him wildly popular, it also left him stuck. Hollywood had discovered something very profitable, Zac Efron's looks. And once they realized how much money his face and body could make, they weren't going to let him be anything else. Why gamble on Zac as a serious actor when his looks alone guaranteed an audience? Even when Zac wanted to push beyond the Disney mold, the industry wouldn't let him. In interviews, he tried to talk about craft, about where he wanted his career to go. But time and time again, conversation circled back to his hair, his abs, his teen idol status. Some interviewers openly flirted with him on camera. Others asked questions about his body instead of his work.
You are quite stunning in real life, I must say.
No, thank you.
That sounds really odd. Very odd. But the guys back home, they said to me, "Oh, you've got to flirt with Zac Efron and everything." And I'm like, God, I'm like 10 years older than him.
Check it
actually,
off.
a bit older than that, probably. No. So do you like older women?
It became clear Hollywood wasn't interested in Zac Efron, the actor. They only wanted Zac Efron, the image. And the more he tried to break out, the harder the box closed in around him. Directors kept casting him as a slightly different version of Troy Bolton. Studios kept marketing his movies with posters that highlighted his face or his physique. By 2010, Zac was restless. He started turning down roles like the Footloose remake, fearing they would only reinforce the stereotype. He wanted more challenging, adult material. But Hollywood didn't see him that way. The irony is, what made Zac a superstar in the first place, his looks, his boy-next-door appeal, had now become the very thing holding him back. He wasn't just trapped by an image, he was trapped by a system that refused to let him be anything else. If Hollywood had typecast Zac as the teen idol, the next step was even more blatant, turning him into a body to be sold. His first real attempt to break away came in 2010's Charlie St. Cloud, and later The Lucky One. These weren't high school musicals or lighthearted comedies. They were adult dramas, heavier in tone, designed to prove he could carry serious roles. But when people talked about The Lucky One, they weren't dissecting Zac's acting. They were obsessing over his new physique. Zac had trained with Navy SEALs and put on 20 pounds of muscle. He was proud of the work, but the industry got the wrong message. Instead of seeing growth as an actor, Hollywood realized how bankable his body had become. From that point on, it only escalated. In The Paperboy, his character spent long stretches half-naked, drenched in sweat, with the camera lingering on his body rather than his performance. One review even noted, Efron is cast first and foremost as an object of beauty, exploited by the camera in ways usually reserved for women. The trend continued in That Awkward Moment and Neighbors. Shirtless scenes became the marketing hook, plastered across posters and trailers. By 2014, Zac had become so synonymous with his physique that MTV created a Best Shirtless Performance award. And when Zac won, presenter Rita Ora ripped his shirt off on stage to the roar of the crowd. It was entertaining. It was viral. And it cemented exactly how Hollywood viewed him, not as a serious actor, but as a spectacle. The cycle reached its peak with Baywatch. For months, Zac endured a brutal regimen of dieting, training, and even diuretics to achieve what looked like a superhuman body. He admitted later that the toll was devastating. He suffered from insomnia, depression, and needed months to recover. Yet despite this extreme transformation, the movie flopped critically. Zac's efforts didn't win him respect. They only reinforced the idea that his body was Hollywood's product. It was a cruel paradox. The harder he pushed his body, the less people took him seriously as an actor. And by playing along, Zac had effectively sold the very thing he once wanted to escape. On the surface, Zac Efron was thriving. He was headlining comedies, pulling in box office numbers, and parading his physique as Hollywood demanded. But behind the scenes, the pressure was taking a dangerous toll. By 2013, Zac's life was spiraling. The constant scrutiny, the endless demand to perform, and the suffocating teen idol label had pushed him toward alcohol and cocaine. At first, he used them to cope at parties, a social lubricant to quiet the noise. But soon it became a crutch he couldn't put down. Friends and colleagues noticed him missing days on set or arriving hungover. Zac eventually checked into rehab. For a moment, it looked like he'd escaped the downward spiral. He even carried a sobriety chip to remind himself of the progress he'd made. But relapses followed, and his inner circle worried he wouldn't survive the cycle. Unlike his shirtless performances, this wasn't for show. This was life or death. While Zac eventually fought his way back to sobriety, his body was still under siege. This time, not from drugs, but from Hollywood itself. Baywatch had left scars he couldn't hide. He later admitted to using diuretics to maintain that impossible physique, which wrecked his sleep, caused depression, and left him physically broken for months.
I realized that, when I was done with that movie, I don't ever want to be in that good a shape again. Really. It was so hard. You're working with almost no wiggle room, right? You've got things like water under your skin that you're worrying about, like making your six-pack into a four-pack, shit like that. That's just it's just stupid.
And then came 2021. Zac appeared on Bill Nye's Earth Day special, and the internet exploded. His jaw looked dramatically different. Swollen, squared off, almost artificial. Within hours, social media turned him into a meme. Handsome Squidward, Lord Farquaad, a real-life cartoon character. The speculation was immediate. Botched plastic surgery, steroids, human growth hormone. Theories spread faster than facts. His own mother reportedly called to ask what had happened. Zac later explained it all traced back to an old accident in 2013 when he shattered his jaw and required surgery. After he stopped physical therapy, his jaw muscles overcompensated, creating the new look. But by then, the damage was done. Years earlier, Zac's looks had made him beloved. Now they made him the punchline of internet jokes. Even when he tried to set the record straight, people didn't care about the truth. They only cared about how he looked. Again. Zac had survived addiction, endured physical extremes, and nearly died from an accident. But the conversation never changed. Hollywood, and the public, still saw only his body. After years of being objectified, Zac tried to rewrite his story. He wanted to be seen not just as the shirtless teen idol, but as a serious performer. His first step was a surprising return to the genre that made him famous: musicals. In 2017, Zac starred opposite Hugh Jackman in The Greatest Showman. This wasn't another Disney sing-along. It was a dazzling Hollywood production with a grown-up Zac delivering wit, emotion, and undeniable chemistry. The film exploded at the box office, grossing over $400 million worldwide. For the first time in years, audiences weren't just admiring his abs, they were applauding his talent. But Zac didn't stop there. In 2019, he took on his most controversial role yet, playing serial killer Ted Bundy in Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile. It was a risky move. Some critics argued the film romanticized Bundy's crimes, but almost everyone agreed on one thing. Zac's performance was chillingly effective. He captured Bundy's charm and darkness with unsettling ease, proving he could carry complex adult material. It seemed like Zac was finally stepping out of the box Hollywood had built for him. Then came something no one expected, a Netflix docu-series called Down to Earth with Zac Efron. Instead of flexing on screen, Zac was wandering through Iceland, Costa Rica, and France, learning about sustainability and healthy living. Viewers saw a different side of him, rugged, curious, authentic. For many fans, it was the first time Zac felt real, not manufactured. The show dropped during the pandemic in 2020 and became a surprise comfort hit. Social media buzzed about Dad Bod Zac, a softer, more relatable figure compared to the shredded Baywatch star. For once, the conversation wasn't about his looks being unattainable. It was about him being human. For a moment, it looked like Zac had broken free. He was respected for his talent, admired for his sincerity, and finally seen as more than just a body. But in Hollywood, old patterns die hard. Then came the Iron Claw. In 2022, behind-the-scenes photos from the wrestling biopic began circulating, and Zac's appearance once again set the internet ablaze. His body was enormous, chest and shoulders unnaturally wide, arms thicker than ever, his midsection distended, and his face carrying a heavier, almost swollen look. This wasn't the Zac Efron of High School Musical, or even the shredded Baywatch lifeguard. It was something else entirely. Almost immediately, speculation exploded. Steroids, human growth hormone, performance enhancers. Fans compared his transformation to other dramatic Hollywood body shifts, from Kumail Nanjiani's sudden Marvel makeover to Conor McGregor's bulked-up frame. For Zac, the rumors felt familiar. Even when critics praised the Iron Claw as one of his best performances, much of the online conversation circled back to the same thing it always had: his body. That was the cruel paradox. No matter how much Zac proved himself as an actor, whether through the charisma of The Greatest Showman, the unsettling depth of Ted Bundy, or the grounded sincerity of Down to Earth, Hollywood and the public seemed incapable of letting go of the image. His body was still the product being sold, scrutinized, and commodified. And in truth, Zac hasn't always resisted. He leaned into the roles, embraced the transformations, and at times even played along with the spectacle. By doing so, he secured his place in the spotlight, but also tightened the trap around himself. That's the tragedy of Zac Efron's career. He is talented. He has range. He has proven time and again that he can do more than smile for the camera. But the system that made him a star continues to define him by the very thing that first sold tickets: his looks. In Hollywood, beauty is currency. And once you've sold your body, once you've been consumed as an image, it's nearly impossible to escape it. Zac Efron is no longer the boy from High School Musical. He's no longer just the Baywatch lifeguard. He's an actor still trying to be seen for who he is, while trapped in the reflection of what Hollywood insists he must be.